Every empire has its origin story. There are tales that are repeated over and over again about the struggles, dreams, and triumphs of the rugged and enterprising individuals that gave rise to the great powers of this world. The Romans told of Romulus and Remus, the Egyptians looked to Pharaoh Namur, and the Zulu Empire had Shaka ka Senza Kakona. This is one such story, of a woman that led a people through the dust of the Sahel astride the back of her horse, and with fire, thunder, and blood, birthed a kingdom and led them to glory. This is the tale of Queen Amina of Zazzau. While much of her story is recounted in oral tradition through tall tales, poems, and songs, we will endeavor to speak on the most commonly repeated elements of her story in an effort to be as accurate as possible. Much of what is known about her comes from the Kano Chronicle, which was translated by Mohammed Bello. That and other Hausa writings give us the base for the life of Queen Amina. Our story begins before she took her first breaths under the blazing African sun. The place is the north of what would become Nigeria. Founded in the 11th century, the Kingdom of Zazzau was built under the leadership of King Gunguma, who unified 7 smaller Hausa states under one banner. Over the centuries, Zazzau became a major trade hub for the Trans-Saharan trade network. The borders of Zazzau housed the camel-borne exchange of slaves, salt, cloth, leather, and grain. In 1456, Islam was introduced to Zazzau, and by the early 16th century, the crown sat on the heads of Muslim rulers. Since 1512, Zazzau sat under the thumb of its imperial neighbors of Songhai. In these years, the world was becoming a very different place. Mali had begun to experience an economic decline due to its former gold buyers in Europe finding themselves awash with the riches of the new colonies in the Americas. Japan's battlefields were piled high with the corpses of heroes at the height of the Warring States period, and the cannons had gone silent at the end of the First Ajuran-Portuguese War. 3 years after her birth, Amina's father, King Nikatu, with her mother, Queen Bakwa Turunku, ascended the throne of Zazzau as its 22nd ruler. His rule was marked with peace and prosperity. Nikatu differed from his predecessors in that he understood the importance of putting diplomacy before the sword. Through his skillful political maneuvering, he secured a kind of peace with the neighboring Fulani and Bornu kingdoms. That brief respite to the constant clashes allowed for better investment into the nation's industry. Zazzau developed a reputation in metalworking, textiles, and leatherwork. Amina was born into this world as the eldest of 3 children. She had a younger brother, Prince Karama, and a sister named Princess Zaria. As women, especially among the noble classes, were not restricted from education, the then Princess Amina had access to all of the training that she could want. She learned about the arts of war, commerce, politics, and religion, as did her siblings. When she turned 16, King Nikatu perished, and her mother, Queen Bakwa, assumed power as the 23rd supreme ruler of Zazzau. During Bakwa's rule, the sword again took the lead, and the kingdom of Zazzau fought wars of expansion and defense against its old enemies. During this time of turmoil, Bakwa ensured that Amina also received an education in Zazzau's military training camps. In the dust under the burning sun, her skills as a warrior were forged under the guidance of her kingdom's greatest warriors. When Queen Bakwa passed away in 1566, Amina's brother, Karama, took the throne and ruled for 10 years. While it is unclear on most accounts what happened to her sister Zaria, whether it be due to marriage or flight, she left Zazzau's borders soon after Karama was crowned and was never seen again. While her brother ruled the nation, Princess Amina, also named heir to the throne, distinguished herself on the field of battle with her nation's elite cavalry. According to the Oxford Encyclopedia of Women, it was said of her, Amina, daughter of Nikatu, a woman as capable as a man that was able to lead men to war. Earning the respect of the nation's military through the cost of blood, sweat, and steel proved useful when she took the throne following her brother's death in 1576. With the backing of the bravest warriors in her kingdom, Queen Amina called her army, over 20,000 strong, to take to the field of battle and conquer. 3 months after she had taken the throne, her warriors were sharpening their weapons and heading out to war. What followed was a series of military conflicts that endured for over 30 years. The dry soil was drenched in the blood of the many warriors that fell in the years of seemingly endless bloodshed. Her first targets were the historical enemies of Zazzau, Bornu, Kano, and Katsina, first conquering the unprotected towns and villages, and eventually choking the capitals into submission. She also brought under her boot the lands of Ida and Nupe. Through these conquests she consolidated what can now be called Hausa land under her banner, making Zazzau its nucleus. Under her rule, new crops were added to the agricultural landscape so that such items as the coveted kola nut were no longer only accessible through foreign trade. From her new territories she extracted various forms of wealth, ranging from gold to textiles and male slaves. She also invested in reforming the defensive and offensive capabilities of her growing kingdom. She commissioned the building of great walls around her newly conquered territories. These were known as Amina's walls, or Ganuar Amina. Some of these walls are still standing in Nigeria today. Under her leadership, chainmail was introduced to her army, as well as improved helmets and cuirasses. They also developed new tactics and incorporated the best and brightest from around her new empire. Queen Amina never took a permanent husband. On campaign, she would take a different man every night from the ranks of the conquered enemy, marry him, and then have him executed in the morning. She would have this done, citing that he could tell no stories about the night that she spent with him. As she was on the battlefield, she was also ruthless in her nocturnal affairs. Legend holds that her rule continued in this way until its end. During her rule, Zazzau's borders expanded as far as the mighty Niger River and the Atlantic coast. Her last days differ depending on who writes the story. Some say that she died on campaign fighting at Atagara, though it is unclear whether she died in battle or she died on the road. What is certain is that she breathed her last in 1610 and left a legacy that would be memorialized in film, in art, and in the hearts of the Nigerian people. The indomitable and unforgettable Queen Amina of Zazzau. The Historical African Martial Arts Association's Hero Series celebrates the great military leaders of Africa's past. Order yours today at teespring.com.